Hey family, welcome to Set for Life. We have with us today comedian, writer, host, Emmy award-winning producer. Ron G.
Hey, what's up, brother?
Doing, man?
How you doing, bro? Good to see you.
Good. I had to do it. I had to hype up because you're always hype.
I never seen you in play clothes, bro. I feel like you're always like real dressed up, but this is casual for you.
Yes,
it's
casual.
dope.
Because I said, hey, I got to come in here. We're gonna do this, and I'm just excited about you being here and us talking. So we're gonna have a good time. So first of all, family, one of the things we're gonna make sure we go through today is not only about how you're a comedian, but also how you're a host, all the different things you do, but also the hustle behind it, and then we're gonna get into a little bit of money. Is that all right?
Let's do it.
So here, let's just start off right and say, when's the first time you knew you were funny?
Growing up, I'm actually from Columbia, South Carolina, so how I grew up, I feel like being funny was a coping mechanism. Okay. Like there was no shame in my household. Like most people grew up with like self-esteem issues, like everything was fair game in my household. You know what I'm saying? So my mom used to roast me and call me Bishop Headed Long and Dome Ranger, and I go to school and get roasted. I'm like, you can't kill me, I'm already dead. But I feel like how I was raised prepared me for the world. So I always had that thing, but I never knew what it was until I got into a place where I got around people. Like my cousin was a comic in Atlanta, Georgia, and he was always funny. He was like, bro, you hilarious. You ever thought about getting on stage? And I'm like, no. He's like, you should try it. So he invited me to Uptown Comedy Club, Apollo night, which is a room full of dope dealers and strippers. And every Sunday night they had a comedy show. And then I got on stage and I had one boo. I got on stage and I had one joke and they booed me. And then during the boo, somebody yelled out, kill yourself. And I remember like they turned the music on and the host came back up and he's like, man, that was terrible. Y'all show some love for Ron G. Boo, Ron, boo, G, boo, Ron G, boo. And I'm like, for some reason, I fell in love. I know it was weird because my cousin was sitting there looking at me like, I looked at him, he was like, I don't know what to tell you, but I fell in love. That moment started something that lit a fire and I'm like, I'm going to figure this thing out.
You know what? That actually is a good point. I played athletics, and one of the things that I actually like is playing away games, and you have the team that's booing you the whole time or calling it. You're like, you know what? After a while, you start saying, I'm going to turn this whole crowd around and figure out how to do this. And then after a while, they start cheering and everything like that. So then after that...
And athletics is a cheat sheet too, though. Because I feel like when you play sports like football or basketball, if you get dunked on or if you get ran over in football, that's the moment that determines whether you're going to join the band or you're going to lean in and figure out what you did wrong to become great.
Right. And that's one of the things in Set for Life is we want to look at when you hit something, how you react, how you pivot. So after you had that experience, what happened later on to make you be able to grow and be able to be the comedian and do things you do now?
I started going to comedy clubs that let me talk. They let me get it out. And within 8 months, I got my first standing ovation. I did Fort Benning, Georgia, perform for the troops, and I got my first standing ovation. And I was like, oh, this is it. And I think, too, when I lived in Atlanta, comedy was a hustle. When I moved to L.A., it became a career.
Right. So you moved to, you said South Carolina, and then you moved to it.
Finished school. The day I finished school, I moved to Atlanta.
And then how did Atlanta work out for you?
Atlanta was, I call it like my cocoon, because I was broke the entire time. I was trying to figure my life out. This was the moment where I call it the quarter life crisis, where you go to school for something, but your heart tells you something different, but you don't know what it is. And every job I had, I got fired from. I was an accountant.
Okay, one more second. Every job you had, you got fired
Every job I had, I got fired from. I got fired from the temp service. Okay. My name tag wasn't even dry, and they fired me and let me go. But I feel like...
That was a sign, but go ahead.
Yeah, but I also feel like that was what God used to get me not addicted to the check. Because when God puts something inside of you, when you're addicted to the check, it's really hard to make this dream make sense. Because my life is not work, church, and home. My life is auditions, interviews, trying to figure this thing out, and there's no specific path in my level of faith, because I don't know when my next check coming. I have no clue when my next gig is coming, but I've never not missed a mortgage payment since I've had my house since 2010. Actually, I've never missed a payment in ever, because God always provided. But that takes a level of faith that he groomed me for, to be able to be out here in a place where I don't have any family, I don't have a quote-unquote support system, and I had to figure it out.
Right. So you moved from South Carolina to Atlanta.
To figure it out.
To figure it out. And you said you got fired from everything. And then, by the way, again, not stalking you, but you also have a degree in finance.
Yeah.
And management.
Yep.
And you got jobs in that area and just.
But I was great with math and I was great with spreadsheets. But to me, comedy is like math. Comedy is like A, B, C. I have A as the setup and C is the punchline. How do I make B make sense? And I put it all together. That's how I see comedy.
Gotcha. And then when you got out here to Los Angeles, how did it kind of start? Like, were you doing comedy? Were you doing acting first? Or how did it kind of work?
My rule of thumb I tell people is do your 9 to 5 until your dream makes sense. Right. And when I first moved out here, I had a job in Culver City as a sales rep. Got fired from there. Just a real crazy company. They fired me because I had to go get my brakes fixed. And it was like, if you ever leave here early before 5, I will fire you in front of everybody. And I was like, well, I got to go get my brake pads fixed, my back ones.
So I can come back to work.
Yeah, so I get my back ones fixed. And then the next day I came back because I got my brakes fixed. And he said, here's your last check. We don't need your services anymore. If you have any questions, concerns, or criticisms, please come see me in my office. And walked off, and everybody was looking at me. And I was like, okay. And I went home.
This is telling you need to do comedy.
This is all the signs. But again, I didn't do comedy enough to know that it was a career. I just knew that I was good at this thing, and I knew I was supposed to move out here, but I didn't know how to make it all make sense. Then I got a job in Long Beach. I was there for like 3 months, and this was the test where it's like, okay, what are you going to do with your career, like, since you're out here? So I got a job in Long Beach, and my friend was like, hey, I got a friend who's an agent. She was raising her son. Now she's back in the business. She's looking for a new client. Would you like to sign with her? I'm like, I would love to sign with her. Sign with her. She sent me out on an audition. I'm 2 months in on this new job in Long Beach, the most money I've ever made doing accounting. And she sent me on an audition for Checkers and Rally's spokesperson. First audition ever. I didn't know what an audition was. Like, I'd never had an audition before. I get to the audition. It was a 2-person spokesperson gig. It was me and this guy who was a polished actor. And he was like, try our cheeseburgers. They're great. They're delicious. Sesame seed, lettuce, tomato, try them. And I'm like, oh, man, I don't like reading in public because I talk real fast. Right. And I was like, hey, try cheeseburgers. They're great. Lettuce to, and I'm just going in. Right. The lady the next day called me. She said, they love you. You got the job as a spokesperson. And I was like, what does that mean? She was like, can you go to Miami next week to shoot these 5 commercials? And I was like, well, I just started this job. I don't know if I can leave. And she was like, you don't want to turn them down. I was like, well, my mom coming next week too. Can I get some more time? She was like, I'll give you till tomorrow. The lady was like, so what's up? I was like, my mom coming next week. She never been on a plane before. I said, hold on. I called my mom. I said, hey, Mom, I just got this job being the spokesperson for a restaurant that shoots in Miami next week. I know you're coming. If I get somebody to take care of you while you're here for a few days I'm going, would you be cool with that? She was like, isn't that why you moved out here? And I had that moment where I had to tell my boss, ask my boss for time off. And I said, hey, remember her name was Mary, business in Long Beach. I said, hey, Miss Mary, I know I just started this job. I booked a commercial, kind of, sort of, in Miami. Can I go next week to shoot these commercials? She was like, Ron, you haven't been here long enough to ask me that. Tell you what, if you're not here Monday, you're fired. I just got out here. I was out here for a few months. Wasn't even out here that long. And I made the decision to go to Miami. And I shot 5 commercials, and I have not worked a 9 to 5 since May of '06.
So that is a perfect example of God opening up a door and you walking through it.
Terrified.
And then, but also, it's also precursor from you were in Atlanta, and every job you had in the area of finance, you got fired.
I was not addicted to the check.
So you start walking in your purpose, and you begin to do it.
Yes.
And you begin to walk in it.
Yeah.
And then you start booking, and then you start doing acting. You start doing spokesperson. Then how did you? Then eventually.
So
got into
after
writing,
that, I booked a TV show called Bill Bellamy's Who's Got Jokes on TV One.
Right.
That was the beginning of it. After that, a producer saw me on that show and asked me to audition for Last Comic Standing. Made the finals on Last Comic Standing. Yeah. Then after that, just kept booking stuff, man. And and then in order to be a great comedian, you have to do TV and film. Like, that's a part of it. And I started booking commercials, and I started booking TV and film stuff. And I was like, it started happening.
Right, but I see how you walk through, you keep going through doors and you do it, and I gotta now go to persistence. So look, you do a lot of auditions.
Yeah.
Like you even have one today that you're,
Yes.
that you're going to. And as you're doing this, you see the hustle. What lessons would you tell people about just if they want to follow their dreams or different things that would be good for them to do?
Keep a 9 to 5 until your dream makes sense.
Gotcha.
It's always good to be, talent is easier to come by when you have a full stomach and lights and food and health insurance. My path has been very unique, but just working. I wrote some of my best jokes while I was at work.
Gotcha. And you can get material from that.
You get
now,
material
also, I
and
want to
you'll
let everybody know I did not pay Ron to come in here and say this, but as you guys know, as your financial pastor and doing things like this, he said keep your 9 to 5 in doing it. We've also interviewed several people that also work in these fields and entertainment, different things, and they keep their jobs so they can pay their bills and then to do it. But also, you get material from doing this.
Right, and you'll know when it's time to quit. You'll know because you'll keep booking gigs out of town, and it won't make sense anymore. But until then, keep your 9 to 5 until your dream makes sense.
And then that way you can operate in your gift and then also not take things. I don't know if there's things that they've asked you to do and you go, that's not me. Because you operate in your essence and doing what you're going to do.
And I never do anything out of lack. I get paid now to leave my house. I get paid to leave my wife. So if I leave my wife, you're going to pay me.
Right. You know what? It's essentially then I'm going to go into something that I want to tell you what my wife said about you. Is this but one of the things is that you do that is that now that I have children, now when people ask me to come speak somewhere, I weigh it out. Now my wife has to be there with the kids, different things. So it changes. So I do them and I pray about it before I'm going to go. But also, Ron, I've been wanting to interview for quite some time, and I want to teach you guys a lesson about how you watch people and how you become better at either a comedian, a speaker, or just in whatever you're doing.
Yeah.
So I have this belief system. So I want you to know that I think the best storytellers in the world, anybody want to argue, we can go along as long as you want. The best storytellers in the world are number one, pastors. They can tell a story. Number two, since you're here, are comedians.
All right.
Richard Pryor, live on the Sunset Strip. He was telling a story about being in Africa. I was in Minnesota in a basement when I was a kid. Something hit the floor. I turned around. I thought there was a lion behind me in Minnesota in my basement.
Right.
Because he was telling the story so well. Third, extremely good salespeople. Like he didn't say that. Like they have you walk into a home, a real estate, and you think you've lived there already by the way they're telling the story. So they have the ability to tell a story.
It's not what you say; it's how you make people feel.
It's right. And now he's taking my part, like, because I'm about to get into him in a minute. I'm about to get into him. Right? It's the experience that you have when you're with that person. Bishop Palmer, I'm biased, and Pastor co-pastor John Paul, they're telling stories in the Bible, and you're like, I can walk on water at the end of the story. You know what? Lazarus, right? You know what I mean? You feel like you're in the Bible. And then when you're doing it, okay? And now back to salespeople, the exact same way it's experienced when you go places. Disneyland pass, people paying $100 plus just to get in there to be able to have that experience. Ron G, when you get up and speak and when you're doing comedy, you're checking. You already have your material. So I want to know what are you doing? You're doing it, and then like on Tuesday, let us know a little bit of the secret sauce. Like you kind of watching them to see what's funny and what's gonna work and what's gonna. So how are you doing when you get up? Okay, want to do Comedy Cafe or you want to do Chocolate Sunday? Or then we're gonna okay. You pick the last time you got up and did it.
So
what do you do?
Bishop, I feel like pastor and comedian are interchangeable.
All right, we're gonna let that go today. Go ahead.
I feel like it's interchangeable because I was told that comedians are frustrated pastors and pastors are frustrated comedians. I heard it's all interchangeable.
We're using that.
So Bishop is one of the greatest storytellers on the planet because one, he'll introduce the sermon, he will give his own example, and then explain it.
Right.
For me, my goal is to talk about what's in the room, usually when I first get there, to make everybody feel comfortable, and then I make the room small. That's why comedians say, you ever have this happen to you? Or you ever have, I'll start like, man, outside crazy. like single people, I don't know how y'all do it. Like outside way too expensive to do it by yourself.
Right.
Gas prices look like a reasonable credit score.
Right.
$7.25 for regular, like, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
But I'll make the room small and then I'll dig and make my point. You know what I'm saying? And especially if I say something that I know is going to hit somebody, I'll call them on what they might feel to take all the sting off of it. And the goal, too, is to make orange juice. Great comedians are great at making orange juice.
Gotcha. Explain making orange juice.
Meaning nobody likes medicine. But if you give them orange juice, they will definitely take the medicine because they don't taste it. So comedy is like orange juice to the medicine.
So if you're going out and then we're going to, but I want to make sure we're getting this to help people.
Yeah.
So if you're expiring, and then, by the way, when I say if you're in sales, by the way, FYI, everyone's in sales, president on down. You have to, even though you say, oh, I'm not in sales, I'm like, whatever business or wherever you work, if they don't sell something or do something, it's not going to work. If you're a school teacher, you trying to sell 8th grade or whatever the lesson or whatever you're trying to teach is the people, and you want to work with them. And that, what you're saying, is icebreakers. You always use comedy or just anything to make the room look smaller, like how you're saying that.
Yeah.
I'm saying like this. I was last week I was speaking at a place and a fire truck pulled up right when I was getting ready to speak, and they said, everybody leave the room, da 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 da, and everybody was all panicked, and there was a big long line, everybody trying to get in, and then the manager of the hotel walks in and goes, hey, it's okay, we fix it, and then it starts. And I said, hey, everybody, when the fire truck came, I called my wife. Everybody goes, why? I said, because what I got to say is on fire. And everybody laughed, but the thing is, they were relaxed.
Right.
And then we can start.
Right.
And humor makes people be able to get in a position where they can laugh about, because there's a lot of, you said outside crazy, there's a lot of crazy things going on and how to do it. But hey, I want to go back into some projects you do.
Yeah.
Also, one other thing about you, I think is really, I'm not laughing at you for this reason.
Okay.
You're very transparent. You get up and just say, hey, this thing is, hey, you get up and say this. And then I want to ask you how you get permission from your wife. Yeah. No, the superpower is that and with your wife. You get up and say certain things, and then you're just okay with it. And then also, you guys, this is a true story. He has a podcast with his wife, and his wife was saying this is what type of man I like. And he goes, no, you don't. That's not me. Yeah. Argue with his wife on the show. I'm like, okay.
The disrespect.
So how did couples, tell us a little about
So Couples Couch. One, I had a game show we did during quarantine. Our first 6 months of marriage was normal, and then after that, it was all quarantine. So we did 5 years of marriage in like 2 summers. In order to meet cool young couples, we did a game show online called Couples Couch, which was super cool, and that's how we got to know other couples. But then it was over at like 8:30, so we was like, let's do Q&A. So Q&A, I call it Q&A with Bae, where basically me and my wife would talk about our ugly in front of everybody. And so one thing about my wife is she always keeps me honest. So if I ever say something and she'll keep me honest, and you can look at her face and see if I'm lying or not. And so we talked about a lot of cool topics, from dealing with friends of the opposite sex, me dealing with my depression, her being in my space, dealing with depression, and just conflict resolution. And I just feel like nobody talk about that, especially like church tells you should get married so you don't burn with sin, but they never give you the tools to like walk through that thing and figure out how to do it when you're there. So I wanted to be that, because I feel like that's something I wanted to give people, because, again, everybody tell you to get married, but they don't tell you what to do once you're married.
Right. Yeah, there's this book. It's called Before I Say I Do, and we do there's something called premarital counseling. Yeah, they need to have after married counseling. You know what I mean?
You in the fire?
Right.
That's you need help.
And but I think it's important to have what you're doing is a community of people who are married and working through it together. Because that's why one of the things is getting married friends. If you want to be in good physical health, hang around people that are in good physical health. If you want to get your finances together, hang around people that are good with money.
Oh, absolutely.
So that's why I think that's really good.
And you always think you're the only one. You think you're the only one going through something. You're like, no, it's a lot of people going through what you're going through.
But women are a little bit better. Men have that Lone Ranger thing a little bit more than I've seen women over the time.
It's hard to do intimacy without vulnerability.
But you're willing to do that.
I am.
And you're willing to do it publicly.
Yeah, but for men, I feel like that's a very tough thing. Again, like there's no intimacy without vulnerability, but we all long for companionship and friendships and stuff like that, but you can't get it unless you let your guard down. I think that's a cultural thing, too.
But one more thing about you, though, too, also in this, is that, and then one thing I like about you, also, by the way, me and Ron are friends. One thing I like about you is that you don't have an ego when it comes to financial things.
No.
So if you want to disclose what type of car you have or anything like that, or what type of car that you drive.
I got a Prius, is what it is.
All right. No, but y'all, I thought he was going to say he had a Bentley and do all that stuff.
Nah.
No, right, because
I drive too much. Anything else is ego and vanity. I personally don't care.
Right. No, I just, I have a minivan, and all the time I was always bragging about it. I was always saying, hey, man. You remember when everybody was driving people to the SoFi Stadium? I was like, I'll give any Bengals fan, I named whatever the away team was. I'll give you a ride for $30. A car parked right out here after church. If you want to ride, let me know. Is that there's no ego wrapped up in your thing. So now I just like to talk to you a little bit about finance and everything. So let's talk a little bit about money. So let's go income and everything. I want dollar figures income. Like, what are your streams of income, or how do you view income of this way?
Well, I said I didn't know comedy was a career until I moved to LA. And so when I got here, I find myself booking commercials. I do warm-up for TV shows. I host a lot of shows. I do stand-up. I'm an actor and do voiceovers, podcasts, and I get a check every day from something that I've done in the mail.
So 2 things about that. I did a seminar a long time ago, don't say I'm old, called Money in the Mailbox. And I said, let's look at how you can get money in the mailbox. You know, like rent checks, different things, things like this. Now it's Zelle. Like you say, you get a check every day. Now I'm sure it's wired to you as opposed like it was before.
I get checks too.
Right, I get checks. Part
of the union.
And we ain't turning down nothing. We ain't turning down none of those. But you see, for you to do that, you had to plant something in order to reap a harvest. So like, what's your mindset behind this? So you're like saying every day, you're open to things that are comedy. Yeah. You're open to things that, gosh, that warm-up thing and hosting. TV warm-up. I'm learning a lot about that.
So much money.
All right. And
so
people
much
are doing it. But just wait, y'all. I travel and do speaking, all right? And I do public speaking. But then you know what also happened is I started hitting these things where then the pandemic hit. And I started doing seminars over Zoom, and they were bigger. Because like the people, I was supposed to be in Alabama doing this, shout out to Bishop Moody. There should be 300 people there. Then the people told the people in Atlanta, their parents, and they told people, and then it was bigger. During the pandemic, did your checks all stop, or did you do any pivot, or did you do anything different?
Yeah, I panicked because my entire world shut down. And for me as a comic, being around the energy is everything when you're doing stand-up. That's how comedy is listening, learning how to know which direction to go based on the audience. But the cool thing is I started doing corporate Zoom shows.
Corporate Zoom, right?
Yeah, because people were at home with their employees, everybody working from home, and they wanted to treat their employees by having a corporate show. So I made a lot of money doing corporate Zoom shows, and a lot of that came by referral. They were like, "Oh, you're hilarious! I got another friend who has a company, and they want to, give a little happy hour for their employees, and I'll send you over." I'm like, "Please send over my information."
Right, but you see that though. But I just want to say this. I'm giving you a compliment, but I want to teach you this: is that be open. If I go somewhere and speak, I expect to get 3 speaking engagements out of that.
Absolutely.
And so there's just certain things that I do, and you guys know I taught this to my kids. Be on time, like show up early, just start doing things. Be really likable. Like when I come places, I just say, just water's fine. I'm not a deep, I don't ask for anything or, I don't show up with no pit bulls. Nothing wrong with that. I ain't got no shit. I'd have a very easy to get along. And then you also do that. I think that is good. And you get other engagements.
Oh, of course.
You know why I asked you that question is that I just ministered at a church out I don't even know Winter. I ministered at the church, and they ran the commercial, and they said, "I hope you enjoyed last week. You enjoyed Ron G." And I was like this. And then they go, "Pastor George." I said, "Oh, I know Ron." I didn't have, but I had to start. You know what I mean? Like the thing. So there's been a few times where I've been somewhere, and you've been there right before. Right before me.
Yeah. And thing I learned from my pastor in Atlanta too, man. After church, he would just stand there, and everybody would line up and just speak to him, and he would make everybody feel special, shaking hands. Being a politician, even when somebody walk up, he's like, you know what I'm saying? I'm talking, and so I started doing that at comedy shows. Particularly, I hosted Chocolate Sundays at the world famous Laugh Factory, and so after the show, I would stand by the door and I would shake everybody's hand and thank them, and it made them feel like I know you. And for me, I feel like that's a part of what makes me special, where people feel like, oh, you're a cool guy, even though you're hilarious too.
Yep. I'm gonna say that, and that's back to how people make you feel. This is great. I hope you learn something from this, because this is helping me. I do that on Sundays, and then I stopped.
Monkeypox.
I'm not blaming my wife. I didn't blame my wife.
Okay, yeah.
My wife told me I can't do it until it's legal.
Of course,
But I do the whole thing. But I greet people on Sundays, and you always are reaching out to people. And no, I've always seen how you do that. And you also know that is that people always ask you when you came in here. Our staff, hey, remember I saw you at the other event, because they always think they know me or from the thing, and that's really good. So always reach out to people and do that. Hey, so since we talked about pastors, can we talk a little bit about Two Piece and how that happened? So he actually has a podcast with a pastor. So I guess my question is, what's it like?
Favorite pastors.
What's it like doing a podcast with a pastor?
So doing a podcast with a pastor actually is dope for me, because my brother, my friend, my partner in crime is Donald Bell, which is he used to be a pastor
here. And then I was joking with him the other. I gave him a hard time. So I should say
that's my dude, man.
He ran that singles ministry here, and I'm gonna get in trouble for this, but it was Club Faithful when he was running it.
That dude changed my life.
Yeah, and
he changed my life on a personal level,
and his teaching level, and that's why one of the reasons about
very little orange juice. All medicine.
Yeah, he's going to tell you.
Changed my life.
So tell us a little bit about the show.
So I came up with it. I was dating this young lady, and I had some premiere for something I was having, and she was like, "You should have a viewing party at the house." And I was like, "I don't let people in my house." She was like, "I don't know why, but you should invite your friends over." So I invited over like 5 of my homies, had a good time. After it was over, I thanked everybody who came, and I was like, "Thank you specifically because you were in my life because of this." And I went through around the room and like told everybody what they meant to me, and they got to get all emotional. And then somebody else stood up and was like, "Yo, I appreciate you, bro," and blah. And then we call it tacos and tears because every man there had their own moment that we were all going through stuff, but we never talked about it. We always give the bullet points like Sports Center, but we never talked about it. And I was like, "Yo, dudes out here going through it, but nobody ever talk about it out loud." So for me, I wanted to come up with a cool space and place for men to like talk about how they feel. Because we chase the dream, we chase the money, but I don't think we work on the things that allow us to sustain it once we get here, meaning the relationship with God, the finances, and like just being around good men. Because in order to have a good marriage, you got to be around dope married people you can lean on to like talk through stuff. So I was like, let's try it. And so for some reason, Don Bill got close, and I was like, "Hey, would you mind being a co-host of my show?" And he was like, "Bro, I got so much stuff to say," because I like him. Like, he's dope in church, but there's parameters. But when we do our podcast, to let him go and take the leash off, I think it's like the dopest thing ever. And I wanted us to have a dope platform to like help us heal, figure out a starting point to like how to get better.
I love it how he's doing that. So, you know, I didn't interview him, but me and him were having this conversation at this pastor's conference. And I brought you. I said, "Hey, man," I said, "Yeah, you know, Ron G." I said, "I talked about you guys doing the 2 pieces." And he said that the thing is that you're adding the comedy, but then you're speaking from the standpoint of questions that a guy has.
Yeah.
And he's telling you that, but he's vulnerable also because he's going through some of the same stuff.
Can't teach unless you go through it.
That's why you do it. And you guys know you have different levels in life, struggling and sinking, steady. You guys know this from solid, surplus. You're going through different levels. It's great to have men, if you're men, to walk through that together, women to walk through that together, but just having a community to do that. I think that's really, really good. Hey, look, our time is getting a little bit short right now. So, hey, can you tell me a little bit about some of the projects you're on? And then again, I'm not stalking you, but can you talk a little bit about working with CNN and the Shades of
So I wound up getting I did a music festival. I actually didn't want to do it because the money was funny, and I said I would do it. And then between one of the acts, the DJ and the artist didn't go out, and I just went out and started performing, and I was giving it to him. After that show, producer came up to me and was like, "Hey man, you're super funny. I want to talk to you about something." I'm like, "What's up?" And so he got this. He's like, "I got this show I'm working on for CNN, and we need a young black voice that understands the host with a sensibility that can, you know, help him write for the show." He said, "Would you be willing to do it?" And he told me how much, and I was like, "Let me check my calendar." Yes. And I wound up doing it, and it was United Shades of America on CNN, and we won an Emmy my first time producing on the show as a consulting producer.
Just being your friend, I feel like you know, I'm gonna start walking around. I'm gonna start walking around like this.
Yeah,
George,
man.
Pastor George, what are you doing? I'm with Ron G. That's what I'm doing. No, but see, like,
changed my life.
But also the lesson in that is look how he is Look how he is. What I see in that is how your gifts, you're letting them shine.
Yep.
Somebody out there, look, if you let your light shine, there'll be people that'll sit down and tell you, "You can't do this, you can't do that," and all this stuff. Actually, wait a second, y'all. If anybody has haters, write down what they said and make that your mission statement. Like if they say you're not that, just do your thing. But no, you're always you. When I see you doing comedy, also when I see you hosting, you know, like the whole thing. And then, y'all, I'm saying this about all comedians, but especially Ron. If you are sitting in the audience and you move funny and do anything, Ron is gonna. But that's a good thing.
I don't mess with people unless they do something reckless.
Right, not that, but you do it to make it funny. Yeah. But you cool with them and all this stuff. I'm saying compared to other people doing it. Okay, so that's that. But then also, I saw you I saw the Super Bowl.
Yeah, had a Super Bowl commercial, national,
and basketball. So
can
you tell me a little bit about some of the.
So I booked I had a Super Bowl commercial, which was like I think my second Super Bowl spot. Aired during the Super Bowl, and when LA won, and I feel like my phone just blew up. I got like literally 1,000 text messages at one time, people saying, you know, great job. And then I booked a Chicken Place restaurant commercial along with another very popular carbonated beverage commercial with Klay Thompson from Golden State Warriors, man. And that was another spot that I ran, and I've been getting a check from that since last December.
Right. So do you guys understand that? That's residual income and
Absolutely.
everything like that.
Yeah.
And we're gonna have a part 2 one day. We're gonna talk about how we gonna invest,
Oh,
that
absolutely.
money. We're gonna
Absolutely.
see he planted a seed, it got a harvest,
Yeah.
we're gonna replant it,
Yeah.
then we're gonna build out a whole field.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
Yeah.
I got excited. Don't worry, I'm gonna stay focused
Yeah.
though. So then you're working on that. Then also, you do some things also on, let's use TV, some other things that.
Yeah. So I got I got a movie coming out with Tom Brady called 80 for Brady. I'm in that. Also got another movie coming out with Machine Gun Kelly, MGK. For the people that's not your generation, don't even worry about it. And then also I got a TV show. We just shot season 2 of Partners in Rhyme with MC Light.
Right.
I play her brother on a TV show it's on WeTV.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
So you're doing that. And I'm not saying this to have you brag. I'm showing this that
of
it's
course.
because you're open
Yeah.
and that you're at these opportunities.
Yeah.
And others. Is there any advice that you would give somebody that's like starting off in this, that's kind of in this industry and they may be at different levels and then they may be either discouraged or they're saying they're going to do certain things, just some certain things that they just want steps they want to
So one is the fear. Fear is such a thing where if we live by faith, like I feel like we got to really be the example for it.
Right.
Like it's easy to talk about fear when you're at a comfortable job, but when you're actually doing what you're called to do, it's going to be uncomfortable and it's not going to be work hours. You know what I'm saying? So leaning to that is very important. Also for me, like really trusting God with the details.
Right.
Like for me, again, like I said, I never know when my check is coming, but I trust God and he'll always take care of me.
Right.
And as believers, you got to be reckless with your gift. He gave you this gift on purpose. Going to your job and complaining about Mondays is such a disservice. And don't make God so small. I feel like we make God so small. We make him the God of the weekend. Like, man, I can't wait to get to the weekend. Versus like, no, God is literally the God of everything.
Right.
When I tell God, like, look, I want to make $1 million a weekend and do TV and movies for the rest of my life when I feel like it.
Right.
So I can be a great dad and a great husband during the week. I
Right.
told my God can do that.
Right.
But I feel like we're just like, oh, I just want to pay this bill. Like, no. I
Yes.
want to own a production company.
Small,
And
yes.
create projects for myself. My God is that big to do so
Right.
because I've seen it done.
Right. In the Bible, and then I'm going to have you interpret, then since you said pastors, the Bible says in Philippians 4:19, it says, my God shall supply all of my needs, according to his riches and glory. So what that means is that God's going to supply all your needs. I didn't say needs, according to his riches and glory. What that means is he's already got it. God is not looking for something to bless you with. It's like he has a vault. He's just opened up. He's saying, now let me bless you, but you got to be in position.
Yeah.
So what you are doing an example of, I'm going back now, I'm picking on you. When you were working at the accounting place and then they call you up and say, we're going to have you fly to Florida to do the thing. You're saying, I want my blessing.
Yeah.
And then you're doing it. Then when you're saying the other ones, you're not waiting for something to happen.
Man.
You have the faith in it.
Man, don't let your prayer be procrastination. Sometimes you're waiting on God, but sometimes God waiting on you.
That is just the way that you're doing that and also walking through that. Again, Ron, anything else you'd like to share with our listeners and fans?
Yeah, and honestly, man, like I literally do what I love for a living, and that's a blessing for me. Even if I don't have all the riches and the title I want, I take care of my wife doing what I love for a living. I think that's a blessing. I don't go to a job I hate. I don't care about holidays because I'm trying to work on a holiday. I want to work on New Year's. I want to work on the big holidays because I really enjoy what I do, and I feel like that's a part of life. God giving you the passion to do something you love. You don't care about what day it is. You just want to do it and take care of your family. So I feel like that's the thing that makes us rich.
Good. Hey, last question, financially. Just got to ask. So when you make money, then what do you think that about investing or just what you should do with your money after you tithe and then obviously you homeowner, car owner. What are some things you think people should make sure that they do?
So for me, I want to live where I could shop and travel the way I want to. I don't want to have to go to work. And so for me, I work it when I want to, and I make my own schedule, and I am my own boss, So that's up to you to do so. And for me, I say, as long as sitting on your money, I don't think it's a very smart thing. You got to invest it, which is why I'm friends with you. And I want to know, I always want to be a student of life and learn how to handle my craft and also my finances as well, which I feel like this program is such a dope thing.
Right. One thing about it is that's really important is that the questions you ask, like when you talk to me about finances, that one of the things that you do is you see things that are happening around and go like, hey, let me invest in these things and let me do those. And that's very wise and that helps you. You guys, Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Set for Life. But this is one of the things I wanted to make sure that we learn. You're watching this show today and you saw someone who's, number one, operating in their gift. Two, they're operating in full faith in what God's going to do through them. And in doing that. Also, number three is every door they had, they didn't just try to tiptoe through it. He ran through it and he utilized that. There's a lot of things that we learned today, and I'm going to ask you if you can just give me a high five. Think about 5 people you could send this to, that this would be a blessing to, that'll not only help you, but also help family, because we're all about generational, family and friends. Again, thank you so much for joining us at Set for Life, where we live by design, not by default. See you on our next episode. God bless you.